Welcome to another episode of Living Water Home Edition. That's right, I dropped off the live part because, let's face it, it's been 3 months since we've been live. But we want to welcome you anyway to Living Water Home Edition. We're so glad you came to join us today. And regardless of the name, Jesus is here. And we're so glad that you're here worshiping with us as well. We've got a special program for you planned today. If you're wondering where my co-hosts are, my son Caleb and my daughter Eden, yeah, I missed them too. They're actually out grocery shopping with their mommy. Got a little cabin fever, had to get out the house. They miss you just as much as you miss them, and I know they're going to be here next week. I know where the real talent lies in the family, and it's not with me. I get it. You miss them. But listen, a wonderful service, wonderful worship. We're continuing our series, The Race Against Racism. I've got a couple special guests later in this program sharing their personal experiences, their life stories. They're inviting us into their experiences. You're going to be touched. You're going to be moved. You're going to be changed. But you're going to leave inspired and encouraged. I promise you. You don't want to miss that. And like I said, it's just a power-packed program. We've got special music by Francesca Battistelli, a children's story by Miss Amanda. Kids, you don't want to miss that. We got a spotlight on our growth groups. Our growth groups are starting this week. Yeah, so go to our website and sign up now. But we're highlighting the fruits of the Spirit, a special Bible study for early teen class. There is just so much in today's service. You picked a good one wherever you are. Jesus is there. He's drawing you here. Let us worship together. Let's praise Him. Amen. I know you've had a hard week. I know there's been struggles. I can't even imagine some of the things that you guys have been going through this week, maybe right now in this moment. But I'm inviting you to worship with us and join us as we praise His name, as we lift Him up, as He lifts our burdens up. Lay them at His feet now, folks, and let us worship Him in prayer, in praise, in truth, for He is risen and He is on His throne and He is with us. So thank you for joining us again at Living Water. Praise team, take it away.
Streams of abundance flow. from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom come and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the lost, for he delivered yourself. You sought to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sin you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. And the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till the stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born, and the Spirit did the thing. Now the gospel to the whole shall not kneel, shall not fade. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in
Thank you, praise team. Inspirational, awesome as always. Don't you guys love Living Water Praise? You guys are awesome. Up next is our children's story by Miss Amanda. So kids, wherever you are, you're watching with mommy and daddy, you're on their phone, tablet, TV, gather around now. Get close. You don't want to miss her story. And Pastor Neil just gave you permission to get your face near the screen. Now, don't get too close. You got to back up a little bit. No, a little bit back. Yeah, don't be kissing the screen now. Mommy and daddy, they know exactly where to put you. Kids, you're going to love this story. Amanda, take it away.
Hi kids! Have you ever heard of the three angels message from Revelation 14:6-12? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's start with part of the first angel's message. It's found in verse 7, Revelation 14, verse 7. Okay, quiz. How many points does the angel make in the first angel's message? Wait, before you answer, let's read verse 7 together.
Saying with a loud voice, "Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the springs of water." Oh, how many points did the first angel make? Was it 1, 3, 4, or 7 points? You're right. It was 4 points. Fear God, give glory to him, the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven, earth, the seas, and the springs of water.
Okay, next quiz question. What does it mean to fear God? The first point the angel makes is that we should fear God. What does that mean?
A, to respect and admire God? Does it mean B, to idolize and appreciate God? Or does it mean C, to worship God as if he were a hero? Or is it D, all three, all of the above, A, B, and C? What does it mean to fear God? Guys, you're right. To fear God means to respect and admire him, to idolize him and make him your idol and appreciate all that he's done, and to worship him as if he were a hero, a superhero, because he's the greatest hero of them all.
Okay, kids, last question. What does it mean to give God glory?
Does it mean to make him famous? Like he's a celebrity? Are we to give God distinction? Like put him on a pedestal where no one and nothing else stands? Does giving him glory mean give him kudos? Like talk about the great things he's done? Or is it all of the above? What does it mean to give God glory? You guys are right again. It's all three, A, B, and C. We should make God famous like he's a celebrity. Tell everybody about him. We should make him distinct and special, putting him on a pedestal where no one else is and nothing else is. He's greater than everything, so he deserves distinction. And then talk about all the things that he's done, constantly giving him kudos, constantly praising him and telling how much we appreciate him and telling others how much we appreciate him. All of that means giving God glory. Well, everyone, we're out of time, but now we know what it means to fear God and give him glory. So let's try to do that every day. And later, we'll continue and learn the other 2 points of our first angel's message. Happy Sabbath, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Amanda, for that children's story. You know, it's funny. We're going to be talking about Revelation chapter 14 a little bit later in today's service as well. So we know the Spirit was moving today. But up next, we have a spotlight on our growth groups. Do you guys know what tomorrow is? Sunday, June 14th? Yeah, it's the kickoff of Living Water's summer semester of growth groups. Listen, if you haven't signed up yet, it's not too late. Seats are still open throughout the week. Go to our website and check it out. We've got a spotlight right now on our Fruits of the Spirit growth group. This is a special Bible study class designed for our 11 to 14-year-olds. And you're gonna see a video spotlight now by my mom, Miss Felicia, Miss Gail, and Gabby, one of the students from last semester. So take it away, guys.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Growth Group. My name is Miss Gail. Miss Felicia and I are looking forward to sharing the fruit of the Spirit with you through games, videos, and live chats. See you then.
I'm part of this class and it's really fun and exciting, so you don't want to miss it, so you should come join us.
I am Miss Felicia. As Miss Gail said, we are leading the class Fruit of the Spirit. What is the fruit of the Spirit? What is it? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Talk about God's character. This is what we're going to study in our class. What more better than for our young people to know God's character and to apply it in their lives in such a time as this? Come and join us. And what time? 6:30 to 7:30 every Friday. Starting when? June 19th. This Friday. Come on in.
Mom, Gail, Gabby, well done, guys. Listen, parents, if you have an 11 to 14-year-old, one of our early teens, and you're looking for a free, online summer enrichment program, this is for you. In fact, we've got classes for everyone, young adults, adults on a variety of subjects. It's not too late to sign up. You're interested, you need to be interested. If you haven't signed up yet, you really should be interested. You don't want to miss this. Check out this promo video and sign up today. Quarantined at home, sports canceled, nowhere to go? Then join us for one of Living Water's free online self-enrichment classes called Growth Groups. Our 10-week summer semester is getting ready to kick off now, and everyone is invited. Classes include embracing ethnicity, the art of neighboring, financial freedom, navigating relationships for young adults, and living a spirit-filled life for our early teens. Learn more on our website. It's livingwatersda.org. Click on the Growth Groups button and click on your class to sign up. By the way, all our students receive a free lifetime membership to Right Now Media, our Netflix of inspirational studies. So why wait? Get online and sign up today. As we've been growing our virtual church experience, we wanted to let you know about a brand new ministry that we've just launched, a daily 1-minute video devotional that we call Refresh. You can find it on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channels, where you can subscribe and follow us so you get the notifications as soon as the next one's released. They're every weekday afternoon, Monday through Friday, and here's a sample to check it out. Wondering how you, just one small, unknown, unprepared, unequipped person in a world full of billions, can make a difference? So did Moses. Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, but Moses protested again. What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say, the Lord never appeared to you? Then the Lord asked him, what is that in your hand? A shepherd's staff, Moses replied. All Moses saw was a rod for his sheep, but what God saw was his scepter to part the Red Sea. What's in your hand today? Stop discounting yourself and allow God to define your destiny. We hope you'll be inspired and encouraged and share these video devotionals. So we encourage you, visit any one of our sites and subscribe and follow today.
I grew up in a kind of a climate of fear in our country with all the upheavals with racial problems, and that was discussed a lot in my home. And I was very sensitive, so I became fear-based really at a really young age. Before 9/11, I read an article that quoted Osama bin Laden saying that any Christian who tried to study the Bible with any Muslim would be killed. And I remember thinking, God, please don't ever ask me to study the Bible with somebody of the Muslim faith, because I don't want my family or myself to be in danger. I came to work at a preschool, which is multicultural, and so I got to know all kinds of people, but I was still afraid to share my faith because I was afraid of religious persecution. And I looked at people differently than I ever had in my life, and I'm really ashamed of how I looked at even the parents of my preschool students. This woman came to my classroom, and she was from Iran. She came in tears and asked her what she wanted to do, and she said she wanted to leave. And so I got the help of our student minister, and he and I helped her move out of her home into a women's shelter. She came to a class where the teacher taught about the value of women to Jesus, and My friend came out of that class in tears and told me no one had ever told her that women were valuable to anybody before. And that was the day she decided to become a Christian. She was baptized privately. It was kept secret from her husband especially, and from even her sister, because she was afraid of the consequences of her family finding out. One of our elders and his wife had an ESL program on Tuesday night, so they asked me to come and try to teach ESL. And I just thought I didn't have any gift for it at all. I just felt this nudging by God to say that I would do it. It was easy and it engaged people because it was a concrete way to study the Bible with English, and I began to love it. Anything that has happened in my life over the last few years, taking care of the people who come into my life from other lands, has been a blessing to me. I consider them my friends. I share my life with them. So I am convinced that God brought me out of this fear. And if I ever feel myself heading that way again, I ask Him to help me, to come in and to change my heart, to make me more aware of people being just people.
We're continuing our sermon series, Race Against Racism, with a message entitled today, Conversations. It's really a continuation of the conversation we started last week. If you watched our service last week, you know we've been talking about before the need to take action, where there is a definite need to take action, we need to first understand, share, and feel, to empathize with those who are dealing with oppression on a daily basis, with the Black Americans and their experience that for those of us who aren't Black, it's hard for us to really understand. And we can't make meaningful actions until we better understand just what we're up against. And so we're continuing this theme of just better understanding, just listening, hearing. I'm an action-oriented guy. I have a hard time being still and staying silent, as many of you could probably tell. But for a lot of us, it's time to just be silent. And it's to hear their stories. And so I'm so glad we have two special guests, Miss Betty Nugent and Mr. Roger Prince, professional educators, public educators, sharing their stories, some of the dark past that they had to live with, and inviting us into those moments. I'm so grateful that they joined us today. Up first, we have Miss Betty Nugent. The last name Nugent might sound familiar to many of you, or even Betty, she may look familiar to you as she shared a children's story or two with us previously at Living Water, and her son, Elder Ian Nugent, has preached here at Living Water, powerful preacher. This is Ian's mom, Miss Betty, and she grew up in the 60s and 70s during segregation, desegregation in the South, during the Civil Rights Movement. She's just sharing, you know, growing up as a Black woman in the South during this time, but not just the South, you know, her experience around the country growing up. And I'm just so grateful for her willingness to open up things that, as you will hear, impacted her and even still haunt her to this day, so that we could learn and begin to share that experience. So as you hear from Betty and later Roger, I want you to do your best to place yourself in their shoes. See through their eyes. Feel through their heart. Empathize, so that we can finally begin to truly be together and in unity move forward with lasting and impactful actions to heal this disease of racism. So up next, you're going to hear from Ms. Betty Nugent. Check it out. Hey, Sister Nugent, thank you so much for joining us today. It's good to see you. Now, let me ask you now, where are you these days and what have you been up to? What's life been like in the quarantine for you?
Okay, so right now, well, for the last 2 school years, I've been teaching at Forest Lake Academy. It's an Adventist academy in Apopka, Florida. That's my day job. And I teach 9th through 12th grade, social studies and English. And then in the summer times, I teach for Southern Adventist University. I'm a teacher trainer, teaching methods for teaching, and also teaching innovation courses for teachers. So
well, that's awesome. That is
awesome.
Fun. Let me ask you, as a teacher then, especially during the quarantine and all these things, how has that affected kind of, what you've been doing, how you've been able to engage with the students during this time?
Yes. So I teach virtually, of course. And this has been the first time that we've had full-time virtual learning for high school, but I've been teaching virtually for high school. I've done it before.
Okay.
My summer courses with Southern have always been virtual learning. So this is something, actually, my terminal degree is a virtual degree. It's completely online.
Oh,
so
really?
This is where I am comfortable.
So you were ahead of the game.
I was, yeah. It took me 4 years to get an online degree, and it's the best thing I ever did because I think I'm probably the most comfortable person in the Adventist church right now.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. Well, listen, I want to thank you again so much for just joining us today here at Living Water for this interview. What led to me calling on you for this interview was actually a children's story that you did at Living Water. I don't know, must have been some months ago. And you were sharing some of your experiences growing up as a young Black girl during the 60s and 70s, still dealing with segregation and the civil rights movement, how it impacted you and still even till today. So thank you so much for being with us here today and helping me personally to better grasp what it means to be Black in America. What is the Black American experience that sadly too many of us have been too ignorant about. So thank you so much for this today. You mentioned as a young girl, your memories of as a young girl with your mom at work. I think she worked at a department store and facing racism at such a young age. Can you share with us, what happened and how did that impact your childhood?
One of the places that my mom worked when I was a little girl was a place called Woolworths that I'm sure the younger generation knows nothing about.
No, I remember Woolworths.
Oh, you do?
I remember Woolworths, yeah.
Well, you're not that young then. But it was a 5 and dime store, for those who don't know what it is. It was a 5 and dime store, a cheap store. My mom worked downstairs in the basement as a cashier. And sometimes my sister and I would meet her downtown after we had gone somewhere. We would catch the bus, meet her downtown, so we would go home together with her. And I remember a particular time when I was hungry, and in order to get downstairs, we passed through a way that I'd seen it before, and it was a cafe. And I asked my mom, I must have been about 6 years old, but it hit me hard and stayed with me because I said, Mother, can we go in the cafe and get something to eat? Because I'm really hungry. And, my sister and I started, doing what kids do, just jigging each other. Oh, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. And my mom wasn't laughing at us this time or anything. She just said no. And so I said, okay. So we came upstairs and I said, well, Mother, why not? It's open. And she said, no, you can't go in there. And I didn't understand it. And then later on, my sister and some other people from church, they helped me to understand I couldn't go in there because of the way I looked. It just was not acceptable. And so from then on, even when my sister and I would go downtown, and when I go downtown together, I think that was when I was 6 years old. I never ate in that cafe until I was in high school. And my friends and I, we went And then we understood it, we understood why we couldn't. But I just knew that I could not eat in the Woolworths downtown. I knew that I could not go into Make Coins. It was a big department store. I knew I couldn't go in Make Coins and try on clothes. I knew that I couldn't go in Baker's and try on shoes. I knew that. I didn't know why. I just knew that it was not something that they allowed me to do.
You knew this at 6 years old?
Oh yeah, because we never did. I mean, they never let us. They never took us. If my mom would buy a pair of shoes that didn't fit us, she just give them to my cousin. Or if we bought a dress from Make Coins that didn't fit us, they did not. I need to fix that because in Make Coins they did have a place in the basement where there was this one store. It was a big store. They did have a place in the basement where it was just clothes for Black people. And of course colored people as well. It was a colored section, and we could try on clothes there. Penny's had a place where we could try on clothes. But if there was no place where you could try on clothes, and you didn't try on clothes in the department store before you bought them, and if they didn't work, it just didn't work, So, but that was my earliest memory in public. Stuff like my mom taking our porta potty. She would take a porta potty with her when we would go to the park, when we would go to celebrations and stuff like that, so we could sit on them, stuff like that. Those are my earliest memories of not truly. I guess my phrase for it would be, it was a process of teaching you your place. And even though as a young child I did not understand it, I knew what my place was, and my place was: you don't go to the toilet when you're in public. You don't go to the cafe when you're in public. You just don't do those things. You just don't, even though other people do, you don't. And that's how I grew up. That was just the way it was.
Earlier you mentioned a specifically troubling class, I think in 8th grade, right? You said that, I don't know if it's a teacher, something, you said something happened there. And how did you react to that 8th grade experience? How did you cope with?
Okay, so in our math, the way it was back then, I guess it's like that still. So they put it's not like that anymore. I shouldn't say it's like that still. They took all of the kids that looked like me in 7th grade and put us all in the same math class. Now the school's desegregated now. This is 8th grade, 7th grade math. They put us all in the same math class. And no matter how we tested, they would not let us into any of the accelerated math classes. We had a few Black teachers who pushed, so that, because they had us all on the same track. All of the Black kids were on the same track.
And this is after desegregation, right?
Yeah, this was about 1972.
So it's desegregated, but it's still segregated.
It's definitely segregated. There were quite a few, and this is junior high, and there were still more white kids at the school than Black kids. But the Black kids in my 7th grade year were all on the same math track. In 8th grade, they tried to keep us in the same math track, but there were a few teachers who just said, no, this is not right. So they allowed me to, I tested out, and finally they pulled me out and put me into the pre-math class. And there were 2 Black kids in the pre-math class. The other Black kid who was in the pre-math class, her mother was a teacher, I was a librarian, her father was a teacher, and she went to the school because she lived in the neighborhood. They were the first Black people in the neighborhood. My mother was the domestic, I lived in the projects. It was clear that I didn't belong. We didn't have uniforms, so I dressed the best that I could, But that math teacher, she allowed the other girl, my friend, Fran, and didn't bother her, and everybody else was white. But every day that I came to school, every day that I came to class, she found a reason to put me out. I was probably in her math class 2 days out of the week. She would write me up. She would write me up for dirty fingernails. She would write me up if my ponytails didn't look right. She would write me up if I had a smudge on my homework. She would send me out. It got to the point where the dean was an old white lady, and she would send me to the library. The dean would send me to the library, and she said, just stay there until the class is over, because they didn't know what else to do. They couldn't do anything to the teacher. Even the kids rebelled. And then she blamed their rebellion on me and said that they were rebelling against her. because of my bad influence.
So she still brought everything on you.
Yes, it was
were
always
the
oh,
focus
the
of
kids
all
did.
her- Hmm.
The kids did terrible things to her. They would write her notes. They were just to try to get her to see how she was treating me was horrible, but nothing, and nobody could do anything to her. The principal didn't do anything to her, but it was only the dean. When she would send me to the dean's office, the dean would send me to the library. I would get the math work from somebody else to do the best that I could, but then I would read in the library. Eventually, the librarian let me work in the library because I was there all the time anyway. So it actually had some good things happen to it. I ended up working in the library. I ended up reading most of the books in the library, history books, everything, learning how to do independent studies. My dissertation is on how to teach math because I never learned math from a teacher in 8th grade, and it hurt me for the rest of my experience.
So because of your 8th grade experience, you're like 12, 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you grow, your dissertation was really based, it came from, grew out of that experience and the trauma.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the whole time I was doing my dissertation, because I taught 7th and 8th grade math intentionally, because I realized that was where it fell for me. And the whole time I was writing up my dissertation, I kept thinking, oh man, I wish I could see her now. And then I was thinking, I wish I could see her now. I could actually tell her thank you, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be doing what I was doing. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be helping the students that I was helping.
That's just crazy. Now, despite all of your challenges in elementary and junior high school, I'm sure even, you earned the opportunity, in spite of all the obstacles and all the challenges growing up as a Black woman in the 60s and 70s, you still earned the opportunity to continue your higher education in college. And you attended the Bethune-Cookman College.
Yeah, I did.
A historically Black university.
Oh, yes.
Where, at least, when I hear, HCBU, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, safe haven.
Yes.
Despite being this historically Black university, you said racism still followed you there.
Yes.
How so?
Yes. I was very excited to be at Bethune-Cookman because it was everything that I dreamed it was going to be. I had, I learned so much about myself. I finally understood what my parents, my mom, my aunts and uncles, I finally understood what they were trying to protect me from when I was a little girl. And I finally understood some of those other things that we had been doing, because we were just doing them because the elders told us to do them. But I finally understood it because I had teachers who really worked with me to help me. I majored in history, pre-law, and minored in math. But I had to take a science class from a teacher that everybody had warned me about, but I had no choice. I had to take the class, and I had A's in every class except that one. I had like a D in the class, average by midterm. And I went to her because I was telling her I'm having some difficulty with your class. When I say I had all A's, I stayed on the principal's list the whole time I was at Bethune. I'm begging her to help me. I would go to, she always had a reason why she couldn't help me. And finally, I followed her into our office from class one day. And I said, I'm having difficulty, and it was physics, is what it was. As I'm having difficulty understanding this and this and this. And she just listened to me. And I showed her on my homework where I was trying to do, on the classwork where I was trying to do. And I said, do you hear me, Dr. Whatever? And he said, she said, you can't help it. It's not your fault. All right, well, okay, by then,
just like that, just like matter of factly.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so I'm feeling a little bit better about myself about being Black now, because I've been at this school for a while now, and so I'm not as easy at taking stuff that people have done, that people do to me, and I knew there was something wrong with her statement, and I said, what do you mean it's not my fault? She said, you grew up in the projects. Look at your skin, look at your hair. She said.
She said those out loud.
Yes.
Working at Bethune-Cookman College of all places.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, she was blonde. I forgot to tell you, she was white. Okay, and she said, you can't help it. She said, you're just pitiful. She said, your people are pitiful. She told me, I'll never forget the words. She said, your people are pitiful. She said, when you grew up, it's pitiful. You'll never learn this. You'll never be anything. And I stood there and looked at her, and I thought, I have a choice. I can fall down on the floor and cry, or I can do something about it. That's the second time, but the first time that I've done something about it directly against an oppressor. The stuff with forensics, that was different because that was learning how to beat the system. But I intentionally did something about the oppressor because I remembered where I was. And I don't know if you want to know what I did, but
I absolutely do. Are you
okay.
kidding me? Like the suspense. I'm like, you can't leave us hanging like that.
I thought about my GPA and I thought about my scholarship, and I wasn't going to have a D on my transcript, especially when I'm trying to.
Straight A's other than this
Yeah,
class.
I had all A's and a D. At that point, it was halfway. So I went to the chair of the department. Had to track down the chair of the department. Chair of the department was Black, and first I went to other people, and then they told me, no, you need to go and talk to him. I went and talked to him, and I told him the conversation, and he took care of it for me. The chair of the department, of course, was Black, but I don't know. I thought I had lived beyond that. I thought I had gotten out of this because my hair looks like this, because my skin looks like this. Yes, I am darker than most people. Yes, I am Perito Bowleg, not me. Yes, I was still, but I'm not ignorant. You know, I'm not stupid. Don't keep doing this to me. And I think I just had enough. And she didn't come back the next year, you know, and I stayed on the principal's list, you know, but it was the first time that I directly took on what someone was doing to me and didn't just bow down and say, you're right. But look how long it took me. I've been living with this my whole life. And look at where it happened. And you're right, it happened in a safe place. It happened in a place where there were Black people in charge. I wonder what it had been like. Well, it did happen to me at Southern, and it did happen to me at Andrews. But and I wasn't an Adventist yet. I can tell you, I grew up a Baptist. If I had not had that experience at Bethune, I don't think I would have been able to deal with what happened at Southern and what happened at Andrews.
Can you share with us, because you know now you've dealt with this in your undergrad there at Bethune-Cookman, a safe place. You've come to appreciate who you are, to value yourself, you know, and not see yourself as much as society sees you and devalues you. And yet it almost seemed like, from what you're telling, it seemed like you got to a point where you felt like freedom. You got away. You've escaped this, and yet, you know, the arm of racism pulls you back in, even in your safe haven. But you mentioned Southern and Andrews, so now we're talking about grad schools, right? So what is it that happened there? You know, it's sadly, you know, Andrews University, Southern University, I mean, these are Christian institutions, even flagships of the Adventist Church in education.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened there?
Well, I became an Adventist at Bethune-Cookman. I started studying, reading the Bible through, and I became an Adventist there. And as I said, I went on to Southern to finish my undergraduate, and then I did my master's at Andrews, and at that time at Andrews, there were not a lot of Black Americans. There were a lot of Blacks from Africa, Blacks from Jamaica. There were Blacks from the North, from New York, but their parents were primarily West Indians. But very few, there was always a joke about me being the girl from the Deep South. Always. You know, but I dealt with it. I dealt with it with my classmates. I can deal with it. But I walked into a particular class, education class, and I was like, oh, I can do this. Oh, this is easy stuff. I can write. Remember, I had been in forensics. I had been writing and editing speeches pretty much all my life.
So this is your wheelhouse. This is your comfort.
This is it. And it was an education class where we had to read a lot of Ellen White, do an analysis of it, read the Bible, do analysis of it, make proposals. I could do this. Speak. I can do this. I've been doing this. I've been winning competitions. I've been beating the system doing this stuff. And so we would have a lot of group activities, and the class realized that. So a lot of the students in the class, there was only one other Black American in the class. He was from New York. And then there was me, and the rest of the class was white. But in the group projects, I would help everybody. I would coach them, you know, and we would get up and do our presentations, and they would get A's, and my presentations, I always got C's and B's. I always got C's and B's. Always. My papers, I always got C's and B's. Always. And it just, no matter what. And again, it was the rest of the class who's asking, you need to go talk to him. I'm still a kind of new Adventist, but I know that this church is perfect. That was in my mind. There's no reason why this stuff will, as you say, follow me. There's no reason why this person would be treating me like this, intentionally because of the color of my skin. But they saw it. These are the white students. I thought there was only one other Black American in the class.
So even the white students, your peers,
yes,
are telling you like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And I'm saying, no, you're not right. That I'm doing something. I'm blaming myself now. I'm saying there's something wrong. So they pushed
yourself because of where you were and just how you viewed that environment. Like, no, this can't be here.
Yes, this is the seat of Christianity here. So some of the classmates, they walked me to his office, and they made me go in and talk to him, and I did. And what he said really crushed me, but it gave me hope. He said, you're right. He said, you walked in, from the day you walked in the class, I said, oh no, I don't know how to teach her because I know that she's not going to know how to do this stuff. In his mind, he could not imagine someone like me being able to read and analyze and critique and rewrite and post. And it didn't matter before anything ever, this is his words, he's telling me, before anything ever came out of my mouth, he already had made up his mind what my grade was going to be, always. And so I said, so what are you going to do about this? And he said, I'm going to go back and read all of your papers. And he changed my grade. Because this is the end of the marking period. He did, in all fairness to him, he did change my grade. But that was just like blew me away. I'm towards the end of what I thought, because I didn't think I'd ever go in and get my doctorate. But I'm pretty much at the end of my matriculation for college, and to end my year with this bigotry, this racism, and it just because of my kinky hair and dark skin and my southern drawl.
The supposed safe haven, a church institution.
Yeah.
The sad truth is, and I know this, I've seen this, that the predetermination, it still happens. Still happens in Black communities, in predominantly Black schools, because I've seen it happen in the schools I've went to as well. So after 40, 50 years later, sadly, it's a story that I think happens still all too often. I remember when we talked earlier, you mentioned being a part of something you called sympathy marches. Now, I hadn't heard of the term before, but you mentioned you couldn't make some of the larger, more famous national rallies, but you were a part of some sympathy marches. And could you share, what's a sympathy march? What did you do? How did that impact you? What led you to be involved in there, and what did that leave you with?
And you say that, and I think that probably I hadn't thought about it until you just said this just now. I think those sympathy marches probably played a lot into how I raised my children. Because we call them sympathy marches because we were growing up in the projects. We all look the same. We're all at the same poverty level. We're all, socioeconomic level. We all have been oppressed because of who we are, but we all had each other. So whenever they heard that there was going to be a march, say like in Orangeburg, I think South Carolina, or St. Augustine, or Birmingham, Alabama, or something, they would try to get together young people in other communities who could not make it to these marches to make signs and hold up these signs and walk and, just not do anything, but just walk in your community, in your neighborhood, just to show no video, no camera people. You're just doing it because you're doing it at the same time that it's happening on television, And so as I got older, when I started raising my kids, we used to have in Orlando, Martin Luther King candlelight vigil in downtown Orlando. And when that was, my children grew up, of course, in Orlando. And at that point, Martin Luther King Day was not a holiday yet in at the schools that my children attended. And I'm not going to call those names. But I would take them out of school and we would do activities on the weekend of his birth. And the mayor of Orlando and the mayor of Orange County, Florida, was always white at that point. But they started this thing, and I said, we are going to participate in all of these events because it reminded me of those sympathy marches. And so at sunset, every year while my children were growing up here in Orlando, every year at sunset on Sunday night, people from all over Central Florida would gather, and they would have these signs, and we would have a candle. The mayor would give you a candle and give you a t-shirt. And it reminded me of what we had done when I was little. And I wanted to instill that in my children, that even if you can't do anything big, that you can do something small in your little place. When I was little, there were no cameras. There were nothing recording what we were doing in our neighborhood every time there was one. When they were having the race riots, and they would beat us up in school because we were in their schools and they didn't want us to be there, we would still have to go to church and pray for them. We would still have to participate in peaceful demonstrations. We would still have to hold our head up. We would still have to just take it and take it and take it, and then go back and still smile and always make them feel like they were right and we were wrong, and still have to make good grades. But when they started that candlelight vigil in Orlando, I wanted my children to know you can do a little thing in a big way. And they did it every year. And it got to the point where they would say, Mommy, so-and-so wants to come. Can they come with us? And we'd end up with all these kids at our house who would go down to the candlelight vigil with us. And I remember thinking, okay, it was worth it. It was worth it. It was worth it. But then Memorial Day happened here. Right? And then I started thinking, was it really worth it? And I heard Mr. Obama speak the other day, and he said, some of you, and it was like he was reading my mind. He said, some of you feel like you're reliving your childhood. And you're thinking, is this 1968 all over again? Because that was the worst year. He said, no, it's not 1968 all over again, because you're not alone this time. I've gotten so many emails and text messages and from my students who have told me I never had anybody else who allowed me to participate in a march. I never had anybody else to tell me the truth about the way it was growing up. And I just want to thank you. And I have friends who don't look like me. These are kids telling me they have friends who don't look like them. And they're glad. They know how to treat them. They know how to be. But I don't even know where this came from. I don't even know if I answered your question.
Oh, no, you more than did. You more than did.
Cut that out.
No, you more than did. Let me just ask you one final question. You are, just following on what you're sharing, you are a successful Black woman who grew up in the 60s and 70s, who has now raised beautiful, successful children and now grandchildren. You have found success at work, at home, at church, in spite of all the obstacles and challenges throughout your life, throughout this journey. We've talked about from 6 years old to, we didn't even go into professional career, which I know there's all kinds of things that would have hit you. In spite of all that, here you are today. What words of encouragement or of hope could you share with those who are still in the midst of that struggle right now, who are still feeling like, what's changed? Has anything changed? Is there a way out? And they just feel like they're drowning. What words could you share?
I know this seems, goodness, just like flighty and Pollyanna, but we took our strength from the church.
Hmm.
And I think for years, I felt like maybe the Adventist church does not know how, but I've been encouraged lately that the Adventist church does know how.
Mm.
Growing up in a Black Baptist church, I knew that every Sunday I was going to get enough energy to be able to go back and face those people on Monday. And now, recently, I just told this story to somebody yesterday too. Recently, I watched a video that was put out by the Florida Conference Administration. That's my conference. I am proud to say Florida Conference is my conference. I didn't think I would be able to do that. But my president, my secretary, and my treasurer made a special video to tell me, well, not just me, but people who look like me, to tell me that oppression and racism is a sin and it will not be tolerated in the Adventist church. This is my president, my secretary, my treasurer. They're saying, those of you who have difficulty dealing with people who don't look like you need to pray about it and get over it. But we're not going to accept that in our church. Those are my officers. As Mr. Obama said, that was not said in 1968. I had to get my strength from the Black church. This is a naturally integrated church. Oh, by the way, my president is Hispanic. Okay, my secretary is a white male, and my treasurer is a Black West Indian female. And this is the Florida Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. That was hopeful for me. That was hopeful for me. There is hope. And the other thing, though, I would like to say is when you feel like you want to retaliate, when you feel like you want to say something mean and nasty to somebody, you don't need to say it. You don't need to say it because they're not going to hear you anyway. If someone is doing something evil to you, you can always catch more flies with honey. Always, always, always. Because if all you're going to do is get up and pick up a fly swatter, guess what? All their cousins going to come after you.
I don't think I've ever heard it put so eloquently. Sister Nugent, thank you so much for joining us. Listen, I realize, reopening the past can be painful when that past is painful. And so, look, on behalf of the entire church, our entire audience, we truly appreciate you sharing your heart with us here today. I know we only scratched the surface of your life's struggles and experiences, but I know personally, and I know corporately, everybody here watching, I know that hearing your stories will help to galvanize us, all of us. Like you said, white, Black, Indian, Asian, Hispanic, it will help to bring us all together to make sure others don't suffer the same way you did. Thank you so very much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I hope to actually see you again
soon. Thank you so much, Neil. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for the opportunity to share. Lord bless you.
God bless you too. Up next is my interview with a good friend of mine, Roger Prince. Roger and I have gone back for, over a decade. We've got families around the same age. We're the same age, kids around the same age. And I ran into him recently, been apart for so long. You'll hear later in this message how we got together. But Roger opens up growing up as a young Black man in America and his experiences. And I'm just so grateful for him just sharing with us and opening up. And I invite you again, just take this opportunity to walk in this Black man's shoes, this educated, well-spoken, this gentle giant of a man. Walk in his shoes as you listen to his stories. Let them be your stories today. Check it out. Hey, Roger, good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you too.
Yeah, man. How's the family doing with life in the quarantine?
Oh boy. Well, as an educator, man, you would think that we have it easier. No, no, not the case. Not the case. It's challenging. It's very difficult. It requires a lot of planning. Um, from figuring out what time kids get on their Zoom calls to when you need to go grocery shopping and trying to take care of stuff that's on the job. So it gets a little crazy. I think a couple of nights I had to suspend some kids. Be like, okay, we're done. It's over with. We're heading out of here. And where you going, Dad? I'm going for a drive.
The first time you had to suspend your own kids?
I suspend them, man. I couldn't do it anymore, Neil. I was done.
Because when you're the principal, you can't send them to the principal's office, right?
Oh no, they were like, Dad, but nope, we're done. This is over with. But yeah, man, it's been a learning experience. The kids are doing great. Trying to adjust. They're doing better than me, it seems like. My wife, is back and forth with work, with her job. And my mom is she's in good health, just trying to maintain, she's elderly, she's gonna be 70 this June. And so washing hands and making sure we take off the clothes when we come from outside and make sure we're wearing masks. I want to make sure that we're taking care of the folk in the home, man. But everyone is doing well. We just praise God for we got this far. I didn't know how we were going to do it in March, but we got this far.
Amen, man. Well, look, glad to hear everyone is doing well. It's crazy that while the quarantine has literally kept us apart for 3 months now?
Yeah.
It took these protests and these rallies on racism to actually bring us back together.
Yeah.
And it was actually, I'm here interviewing you, but actually it was after the rally, you reached out to me to ask me about my thoughts about just race relations in America, right? As an Indian-born American. And it was funny because I was planning to reach out to you.
Oh, look at that.
This was a God thing, right? And during our conversation, you were just sharing how it's introspection that you've been going through. And I feel like, I've been going through the same thing recently. And just you've been thinking about deeper just on your life's experiences. And so, look, just thank you so much for coming here today, joining me on Living Water Live and sharing with us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So here you are now. You've been struggling with the specter of racism from childhood, right? In the family, in the community, up through school. And we all jokingly, lovingly refer to you as a gentle giant. And you're a giant. What are you, 6'7"? What's
with my shoes on, 6'7".
6'7" with your shoes on. I'm about 5. We'll just say 5 something. Call that generous. Anyone who knows you as this gentle giant. You may be a mountain of a man, but your heart, your smile, everything is far greater than your frame. Sadly in the news right now, the spotlight is on, racial profiling and the double standards in the law and police brutality and things. You shared this frightening story of a time, I think you were traveling with Shernette, where you had to now come face to face with this blight. Can you share a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, and it's not the first time, but this one was more. I mean, you're talking about being afraid, because when you are innocent and you have no intent on committing a wrong, you're just driving, and you get pulled over by a police, and you feel the tension, man, and well, I'm going to call it tension, but there's also fear. This racism is evil, man. It's an evil thing. It affects how people perceive others. And particularly as a black man, as a big black man. You know, George Floyd was 6'6". You know, I'm 6'6". You know, we almost have like the same body frame. And here I am driving with my wife, and we're just enjoying this. And we're having a good time. And I noticed an SUV, bigger SUV. And my wife always says, "You always know cars when you look at their lights." I said, "Yeah." And this is in the middle of the day, about noon, and we're just driving, and this, SUV pulls up, and I said, I wasn't speeding. I was just going about my business, about 55, 60 miles per hour. And I looked up about a minute later, and it was still behind me. And he wasn't trailing me like 2, 3, or 4 cars, but he was about, I say about 100 yards behind me, kind of ducking and weaving between cars. And I said to my wife, he's going to pull me over. So that continued for about 3 to 4 miles. And during that time, we had what was called the BlackBerry phones, and I used to hate it because the battery always went dead, and we were like way out somewhere, and I'm like, I need the max. and
BlackBerry
so
curve, man. I was with you.
The BlackBerry phones, I didn't have a charger with me. So not thinking about the police that was behind me, I just pulled over, into a gas station, jumped out real quick, opened up my my trunk, and grabbed my charger, went back in the car, plugged it in, got some power now, so I won't get lost. And we put on maps, and got back on the main highway. And then as I got back on the main highway, about a minute later, I see this cop car again, and he's following me, and I said, "Babe, he's gonna pull me over." And sure enough, he pulled me over. And what I noticed very vividly, when he came out the car, was that he kind of shrugged his shoulder, pulled up his britches a little bit. And for me, as a black man, just having experience dealing with police officers, there's certain things you just have to do, because my goal is to get home. This is not about, my constitutional rights, and he can't do nothing. Look, if a police tells me to put my foot on top of the car, I'm putting my foot on top of the car.
You're just in survival mode.
Yeah, I want to go home. I don't care. I mean, I don't have any defense. And so I'm watching the guy I see he comes, he has, I've never seen it. He had 2 guns. He had 2 guns. He was coming to the car. He had a long gun. And then he had a Glock, which was his issued revolver. He had a Glock. But I was like, okay, well, why is he has a long gun? So I didn't tell my wife at that time. And so he comes up to my window. At that time, all my windows are down. My hands are on top of the steering wheel. At that time, I didn't even think about recording. I just did what the man told me. He said, "Hey," he said, "Can you step out the car?" And I stepped out the car. I mean, I'm just doing what this guy's telling me to do. And then I'm noticing the long silver gun. I'm like, whoa, so I'm keeping an eye on his gun. He has his hand on his gun. And he's talking real casual. And he asked me if I had any drugs in the car. And I said, "No, sir."
And that's the first question that he asked you?
Yeah, first question he asked me.
He asked you to get out of the car, and you didn't have any idea even why you were pulled over at that point.
No, I had no idea. My poor wife, I can kind of see her just said she's frozen. She's looking straight ahead, and she's kind of bending over. And so I didn't do a lot of communication. I was just trying to, and so he asked if I had any drugs in the car, and he started to frisk me. He put his hands around me, put my hands on my sock. I had some shorts on. It was pretty hot that day. And so he started to frisk me, and he said he wanted to check my trunk. And I said, sure, and I kind of reached over to my wife, because I had to go back in the car and kind of like pop the trunk. And Shanette is looking around like, what's going on? And, I guess, look, I've always taught to be respectful to anyone, particularly someone in authority, a police officer, So I was very willing. I said, yeah, sure, you can open the trunk. So I started to open the trunk, and I stepped back, and he kind of peeked in a little bit. And, I stepped in, and I said, well, I started to reach towards opening my suitcase. He said, that's okay, And he started to strike up a conversation with me, man. He said, where you all going? I said, I told him where I was going, and, we're celebrating the anniversary. He said, you been married? He said, how long you been married? I said, been married for like 5 or 6 years. and you loving it? You know, so yeah. I said, yeah, man. I said, I found the right woman. And he said, oh, man. He started to kind of strike up this conversation with me. And
Now all of a sudden it's like friendly banter and
yeah,
chit chat,
yes.
after pulling a gun out on you and stuff.
Right. So I'm just going with it. You know, I'm like, okay. I'm sitting there thinking, I hope this dude don't give me a ticket. I mean, and then as I got, towards my passenger side of the car, and he's he said, well, okay, and I asked him, I said, sir, why did you pull me over? And then he said, you did not signal into the gas station back there. And I was like,
you did not signal at the gas station?
Yeah.
And guns were drawn.
Yeah.
You got to get out the car.
And so, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, sir, I won't be doing that anymore. He said, well, no problem. Just make sure you signal when you turn into the gas station, when you here, because you can get a ticket for that. I said, yes, sir. I was just glad he didn't give me a ticket. But now that I look back upon it, I was just glad it didn't get any worse, because it certainly could have gotten worse, because I could have been like, why you pulling me over? I'm not speeding. I could argue with the dude. I had the right to argue with the dude. I thought it was unlawful, blah, 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 blah. I could have done all of that, but I've just learned to show that respect, and at the same time be very vigilant, make eye contact, don't make any sudden moves, windows down, hands on the steering wheel. I have to assume that because I want to live. That's it.
It's like you have a mindset of survival, no matter what. This isn't about my rights. This isn't about anything. This is about deferment, so I can move on.
Yeah.
And just continue.
Yeah. Yep.
And like you said, this was just one of many other times, and for many other people, sadly, where you hear something like this. Now, the spotlight is on, especially now in the news, on the struggles with law enforcement in Black America, and justifiably so. But we know also that racism is involved through all levels of our society, including at the professional level.
Yeah.
As an educated Black man and a career public educator now, a principal, how have you experienced racism within your profession, within the public school system at that?
Yeah. You can see it, in funding practices across school districts. You can see it in schools that are in what we classify as underserved communities. While it's not like racism written, in the documents, you can just see it, the facilities, the need for resources. It's like, okay, it's a systemic thing, Again, I always believe that racism is built upon fear. And as a career educator, I was in a county not too far from here, and I worked there for 15 years, and was pretty successful, and was called up to serve as an administrator. And back in that time, there were not a lot of Black administrators on the Potomac side. And Potomac is, as you hear about the Potomac area, off River Road, and these were very affluent communities. Still is an affluent community, mostly whites. You have Asians, you have a few African Americans out there, a lot of politicians, lawyers, etc. But this was a money haven. So one of the goals,
it's a wealthy white community.
Yeah. Oh, very, very. I mean, this is just not, this is not just 3-car garages. These are mansions, and it ranged, and they wanted to, to introduce, minorities into the schools. And I was fortunate at that time to get picked, and they had sent me to a middle school where I was an administrator there. And this school is 99.5% black. 99.5% white. Maybe it was 98, but it was a ridiculously high number, So I always joke around. There were 3 black people there. It was myself. There was the other administrator, who was my supervisor, and I think there was a custodial worker there, and they had about maybe 5 or 6, maybe less than 10 black students, a few Hispanic students, maybe 1 or 2. And what I didn't know about this community, while this is
And that's out of a school of how many?
About 1,100.
1,100.
Yeah.
A student population of 1,100.
Yeah.
They had that few. So when you say 99.5, you're close to like 99.9%.
But not, yeah, literally. It was like, okay, wow, I'm truly a spot here.
But let me ask you, so when you've worked in the system for 15 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get an invitation to come there, and this is the type of area, the type of school, the demographic that's there. What went through your mind at that time when you got that call, that invitation to come?
I was excited because, you're talking 15 years ago, there was still a bit of immaturity in my perceptions of the world. Again, intellectually, you kind of study stuff, but it won't happen. It's not going to happen, to me. Come on, it's education. And you've heard really some horror stories. I would hear horror stories because at that time in Potomac, there were 4 African-American administrators. And this was like the first ever, I remember the first gentleman that I met who was the principal out there. His name was Dr. Joey Jones. He's a legend. And he was like one of the first African-American principals out there. And I met with him just to get some ideas on how to deal with this. He said, man, you just got to be yourself, man. He said, you're going to be challenged. And he gave me some little stories and stuff on how to respond and things like that. I was excited because you didn't want to say no because, it's part of your career, So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to try.
And most people are trying to get into places like this, right?
Yeah, a lot of people try,
So you stepped in here excited, like,
So I'm going in there pretty excited.
And what happens?
Yeah. So, you get there, you kind of establish yourself, I kind of looked at some of the school data and, because, you want to tackle, you have a high performance school, I remember that year, they had dropped like 1/10 of a point from like 98.7 to like 98.6, or 2/10 of a point in English. And man, the community went in an uproar. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh wow. We're already at 98%, y'all. And I'm getting all these questions from these parents, and they were upset. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like they're going to riot out here.
They should have seen my grades. They'd have felt a lot better than all their kids.
So you kind of looking at data, okay, what are we really going to focus? And one thing that jumped out at me was that I talked about those, less than 12 to maybe 15 brown and black kids in the building. And what a lot of people don't know, in every community, I would say there's a Section 8 housing. Section 8 house. It's all over. It's you can't have a community which is just exclusively. So there's some part of that community. Well, all of the black kids and the brown kids came for that Section 8 housing within Potomac. And I remember the staff used to be very nervous about going to this particular place. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is Potomac. This is not like Northeast, Southeast. This is Potomac. What are you talking about? It's not down Oxon Hill. This is Potomac, y'all. We off River Road, And they were scared to go in this community. So I went there and I visited and had a great time, connected. And I went to the community center there, and this was a walled community. And I vividly remember driving in. It's about 50 or 60 little townhomes. And I'm like, I've never seen. You see $1 million home right across the street, and then you see a, old Raggedy home. I was like, oh wow. So I go into the community. I go into the community center. I talk to the director, and she's excited. She's, hey, y'all, come on. Mr. Prince is here, and y'all come on together. And I got together and started meeting with folk, and just started talking with them. And she was like, man, you the first, she says to me, who have ever visited from that school. And I'm like, excuse me?
Mm.
And so, just kind of hearing their stories, and I'm like, wow. And then when looking at the data of the school, you're talking about 99.8, 99.9% white, but why was it that the suspension rate and the referral rate for the Black kids was almost 6 times higher than the white kid?
Mm.
And so I'm like, wait a minute, what in the world? And so I'm like, how are you going to address this? What is that about? Why are the Black kids always getting in trouble? Why are they being suspended? Why are they being kicked out of class? What's going on with these type of situations? And so there was a meeting that was called, and this is about 2 months into my my tenure there. And I'm standing there, Neil, and I had this great suit on, man. I had a Kenneth Cole suit on, man.
I know how you dress, Roger.
Hey, look at, man, I had this great, nice looking suit, 3-piece, man. I was so proud. I have my shoes on. I got to make some photocopies, and I went to the photocopy machine. I'm standing there, and I noticed a parent walked up. It was a white male, middle-aged white male. And just as casually, he's waiting in line as I'm getting the copy ready. He looks at me and says, you must be the new custodian.
No.
He said, where are the trash cans?
In your 3-piece Kenneth Cole.
In my 3-piece suit. I mean, and I'm not, I don't think of myself as a confrontation. I just said, well, sir, yeah, let me, I said, yeah, there's some trash cans over there. I said, I can help you with that.
You didn't even correct him.
Nope, because this is not a time for me. I'm about to get up in front of, 50 or so parents to talk about, how we're going to move the school forward. Bring up some pretty tough issues, and wanted to get their help and how we're going to challenge it. What can we do to support these students? And
he's going to wonder why the janitor is up there talking about all this stuff.
Right, now. Right. The janitor's going to present this information. So I spoke to my supervisor about it. She said, Roger, just, she kind of, so we went up and did our presentation, and, like I said, majority of the parents there were great, but I just remember that experience, and I was just told, you got to be careful because, you're being watched, you're being evaluated, you're being, everything you do, it's going to be scrutinized. And then finished up the year there, and, I had a pretty successful year, was looking forward to going back. The kids were great, man. We had some great experiences. Loved just being with them and kicking back with them. It was a great relationship. Referral rate went down with the Black community, the Black kids, the brown kids. It was really great. Got called in, and you're an administrator. You never want to be called in to the superintendent's office. Mm. And it's like out of the blue. Phone call came, had to report to downtown Rockville, and I'm sitting in the superintendent's office, and one superintendent showed up. And I knew him because he was the one who placed me there. And, you can see on his face, he's like, he didn't want to be there. And then, he started to talk to me a little bit. And then 2 more superintendents showed up. And I'm like, what in the world? So now I'm getting nervous. Like, okay, what did I do? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, this, and they sat down and they started apologizing to me. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? And one was a female, and I've knew her for several years prior to me getting that position. And she looked at me and said, Roger, we're going to have to move you from that school. And I'm like, well, what did I do? And the other superintendent said, it has nothing to do with your performance. So I don't want you to worry about that. However, we have received complaints that, and this part always sticks with me, man, because it just reminded me of what in society we have to deal with. She said that the community, members of the community, not the whole community, but members of the community did not feel that the administration was reflective of the student population. 3 weeks later, I was removed. I was removed from the position, placed at another school, just like that. You know, I wanted to get the NAACP involved. I was upset. I mean, I felt in my heart that, you know, this is not what I want to do. And at the same time, look, I didn't want to jeopardize my career. Whatever movement was happening, they were not happy with having 2 Black administrators run their white school. They were not happy about that.
It's like you're dealing with this from your childhood to your formative years. You're dealing with it in college now, in your profession, and this is recent, you know. And this is our neighborhood, and this is you know, the DC area is a diverse community, you know, compared to much of the country, and you still are facing it here, and you're facing it in the public school system where we're supposed to be forming our future, right?
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be part of it, only they're not allowing you. So you face in all these places I remember you told me a story recently that happened, not just at work or in your early years, but right here recently in your home, right?
Yeah.
You said you faced, you know, basically the specter of racism in your own community, in your own home, in your daily life. Share with us what happened that night.
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, the last, you know, 2 months, you know, have been really tough for men, you know, who look like me. And if you're human, you know, you just gotta just kind of sit back and ask yourself, you know, what if that was you? What if that was somebody you knew? How would you feel? You know, and so you think about like the George Floyds and the Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, you know, all the way back to Emmett Till. I mean, it's like these are things, man, that haunt, you know, Black men, you know. And I had a particular experience with my wife that kind of like just resonated with me. And, you know, not thinking, because I'm in my little bubble, you know, I'm in a middle class neighborhood, you know, got great neighbors. We're always talking, and, you know, our kids play, and, you know, and so really after like a long day at work, I just decided to come home and just get a jog. And it was kind of late. It was about 9 o'clock. It was definitely dark. So I started running around my cul-de-sac, literally just running around my cul-de-sac. There's about 8 or 9 houses in this particular area. So I'm running around. It's night. Had on white pants, and, you know, I can't remember the color shirt I had, but, you know.
But this is your neighborhood.
Yeah, my neighborhood.
It is shortly after sunset, right?
Right, yeah. Just kind of having around, just not even thinking twice about it. I'm home. It's my own backyard. You know, I'm going to break a sweat. You know, been in the house all day. I'm tired. And I got a really good sweat in, you know, try to burn some calories. And that's what my mind was. So I wanted to come in and kind of let my wife know, hey, you know, I'm exercising, I'm trying to lose some weight, trying to be healthy, blah, 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 stop eating after 8 o'clock, that kind of thing, you know, and get a good soak. And came in the kitchen, and she began chastising me. So I'm like, what, you know, why are you out there at night? You know, why you need to run when it's bright outside? And I'm like, and I got into this defense mode, and I started, you know, going back like, well, y'all trying to lose weight. You're not proud of your husband losing some weight? And I guess about 10 seconds into like my defense act, man, it really hit me that what systemic racism has done to this country, what it has done to cities, what it's done to small towns, what it's done in my own house. My own wife is worried about my safety in a middle-class neighborhood where the majority of homes are owned by college-educated, highly successful, business-minded people. Most of them happen to be Black.
So you have basically made it to the place. I mean, you've made it.
Made it, yeah.
You've made it. And you're telling me that your wife and you still live in fear in your own successful Black community today in 2020.
And the question is, well, why? You may ask, well, you're in your own neighborhood. Why? Well, here's the scenario. You know, because it could happen anyway. In fact, it has happened. Ahmaud Arbery was just running in his own neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, it could happen. So
that's exactly who I was thinking of when you were telling me your story.
Yeah, it's like it can happen. So this is why my wife was upset and was getting after me. 911, can I help you? Yes, I see a big black man running through my neighborhood. Oh, there he is again. You know, I've never seen him before. I can't make out his face. You know, I'm home by myself, and you know, I'm afraid. Oh, there he is again. Could you please send someone? And see, my thing is, I'm not concerned about the caller. I'm not. I'm not concerned about that person who's home by themselves and they see, you know, a stranger. I'm concerned about who's going to show up. And that police is going to show up. And you know that police is not going to come and say, "Oh, that's Roger Prince. He's the principal of Rockledge Elementary. Oh yeah, I know him." He's coming because he heard there's a stranger who is black who's running through the neighborhood. And I'm a big supporter of police. So I can walk in their shoe and know that when he comes up, he can't come up to give me a high five. He's coming in preparation for a confrontation, potential confrontation. It's just so happened I'm a big black dude. And we've seen this thing happen in our country over and over again, time and time and time again. And this is what my wife was trying to get across to me when she chastised me in the kitchen. That's the message. And I was being just defensive. I was really being stupid, you know. And this is what a black man's wife has to worry about, you know, her husband, you know, her black son, her black brother, you know, her own father when they go for jogging night. You know, and that's the reality of this thing, man, that we're dealing with right now. It's scary. I mean, I've been up a couple of nights, I can't put my hand on it, but then I have to finally say, you know, I'm nervous. I'm nervous, you know, about going places. Yeah, the news has hyped it up, you know, the imagery. Yeah, we've seen all that, but it's been happening. It happens every day. And it's like, people wake up, you know, it can't continue like that anymore. And that's why I was at the protest, Neil. That's why you were at the protest. And I appreciate you were there because it's like my sign said, help me breathe, help us breathe. You know, it's like we need help, man, because we can't do this on our own. And we need people to kind of listen and stop politicizing this thing. It's here. And I'll say this finally, you know, I was listening to a talk show, man, and this thinking of systemic racism doesn't exist is out there and it's real. There are people who actually believe this stuff it happened in the 50s and the 60s. And their reasoning for it is, how can systemic racism occur when you see white people marching and you see them protesting? And this is their reasoning behind it. And I'm like, wow. At the same time, you know, you still see police who are impulsive, going after people for no reason. The kid that got yanked out the car because he was parked in the wrong spot. Come on, man. The older gentleman that got bulldozed. And folk are making excuses for that stuff. Come on. He's a human being. He wasn't a threat. I'm not a threat, you know. I can understand he's shooting. He has a knife. He's trying to injure. But these are people innocently protesting. This guy parked in the wrong spot. He gets college student gets yanked out of the car, you know, for no reason because of the practices that these folk are allowed to get away with. And so, as a black man, I'm marching and I'm protesting and I'm writing my mayor. I'm as a principal, a leader in my district, you know, we're looking at policies that impact minority communities and be a voice for people who are the voiceless, and making sure that when we write laws and we talk about policies that we are cognizant of the impact it has upon, you know, the communities at large, man, particularly, you know, minority children. So yeah, man, it's real, brother. It's scary. It's emotional. I'm trying to process this as much as I can. I got to raise my son, a little impulsive little fella, you know, and teach him, look, there's certain things you can and you cannot say. You got to know when to hold it, know when to fold it. You got to be mindful. And so
And your son is like what now? 10 years old?
10 years old. And he's asking
Oh.
questions. He's asking questions.
He's asking questions. Like at 10 years old, he has to deal with something that ideally he really never should have to deal with, but he has to deal with this at this tender age. He's like forced to grow
Yeah.
into this dark reality.
Yeah. And I teach him not to be afraid of the police, but be respectful. And I had a conversation with a few of my white colleagues, and talking about what I've been going through, and they were very supportive. And I said, your husbands don't have to sit down with your sons to talk about how you assume the position when you get pulled over by police.
That's right. That
Don't.
never occurred to me.
Your husbands don't have to worry about going into a car dealership and standing there, and nobody says anything to you, or you're shopping in a store and all of a sudden the security guard is hovering over you. It's like you don't have to deal with that, and it's like these things happen. We're not dreaming about this stuff. This stuff happens every day. It's evil, man. It's a state of the mind. It's like it's something going on, and the devil is behind it. And it's like, Lord, please, Lord, show us, give us hope. Give us something. We're crying out for justice, and we know it's not going to change overnight. But I just ask that folk just listen. Just listen. Don't try to tell people what. Just listen. It's real. It exists. It's not something we make up. This stuff is real, man, and it really messes up not just me, as a black man, but thousands and thousands of black men within our community across this country. We deal with that every single morning we get up.
Roger, man, thank you so much for joining us for this interview. Thank you for being so open and so vulnerable, so personal in sharing your experiences with us. I know for certain there are people watching right now, just like myself, wondering how, I could have been so ignorant to the struggles of my own friends like you. Mm-hmm. Just this social awakening for me personally, and stories like this that you're sharing with us that are helping people like me to get connected with you, because we want to beat this thing, right? We want to beat this thing, and we can only do it if we do it together. So listen, Roger, man, God bless you. God bless your family, man. And I can't wait to see everybody again soon.
Yeah. Thank you, man. God bless you too, my friend.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
All righty.
I just want to say another special thanks to Betty Nugent and Roger Prince. Thank you guys so much for just inviting us in, being so open, being so vulnerable, sharing your experiences to help us better understand, help me personally. Thank you guys so very much. I read this quote by basketball great legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He said, racism in America is like dust in the air. It seems invisible. Even when you're choking on it, until you let the sun in. And then you see it's everywhere. Can't be put more eloquently than that. There's an entire race of people who are literally choking every single day, everywhere. And we need to shine the sun on this disease. The sun, not just the sun in the sky, but the Son of God, who is the only answer. He is our cure. to heal us inwardly and to heal us outwardly, to bring about the changes in our society that are necessary right now. He is a God of justice who has called his people to stand up in the face of injustice. So the question is, for all of us, will we allow the Son, his Son, Jesus Christ, to shine his loving light on the racism that permeates around us all, inside each and every one of us? It starts personally in our heart. We need to look inside and open up our hearts and our minds and our souls of the personal prejudices and biases that all of us have to some degree, and to open it up, admit it, accept it, so that Jesus can finally shine his light and heal it. Because of each and every one of us watching today, and myself included, will allow Jesus to heal us and transform us, then we will be ready to be his instruments of change to transform this society. That is my appeal to you. That is his appeal to you today. My prayer is you won't take another day to wait, but you will answer it right now. Let us pray. Father, shine the light of your Son in our souls today. Heal us of the choking hatred of racism, and use us as your agents of change right now. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I want to invite you to continue in these conversations. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, drop a comment. Let us know your life story. Let us know your experiences. Help us all to share together as we work together, as we love together. I know a lot of you are shy about sharing comments, and maybe some of these might be painful for you. But I'm just asking you to look in your heart now. Now is not the time to stay silent. You've heard from two powerful testimonies. You have a testimony that only you can share. And so I'm encouraging you, I'm inviting you, I'm pleading with you. The only way we lose is if we stay silent. And I know, let's be honest, a lot of you, if not most, if not all of you, have been reluctant to share anything in our comments. I'm appealing to you today. We need to open up our conversations and our dialogues and be open with one another. So please, today, while you're watching, share a comment, and let's get in this and work through this together with each other and with Jesus. I want to share an announcement too. If you're living in the College Park area, on June 23rd, I believe that's a Tuesday, at 7 p.m., a number of churches, over 12, 13, 14 churches, an interfaith rally, protest, and march against racism and against social injustice, an interfaith vigil, which Living Water is being a part of, along with Hope Lutheran and many more, and the city of College Park. The mayor's office is with it as well. June 23rd, 7 p.m. on the lawn of the University of Maryland Chapel, which is right off of Route 1 in the heart of the city, very visible area. All the churches are invited, the whole city is invited to come together, to stand as one, to let everyone know that this racism and this systemic racism will not be tolerated. And I want to invite you, all of our Living Water viewers, whether you're a member, first-time visitor, whatever, if you're living anywhere near the College Park area, please, please come. Your simple, silent presence, socially distanced, with masks and everything, but being out there with the numbers to let everyone know this cannot continue any longer. Tuesday, June 23rd at 7 p.m. on the lawn of the University of Maryland Chapel. Please join us right there and stand with us together with your brothers and sisters as we fight this terrible pandemic of racism together. With that, I want to invite you again, as you're ready to take your next step with Jesus, just go to our website, click on the Next Step link. If you want to give and worship in your tithes and offerings, again, on our website, just click on the Give link. Thank you so much for joining us here today at Living Water. I hope you were blessed. I hope that you listen to the Spirit's call in your life. I know He's calling you. I know He's speaking to you. Just answer His call. You won't be the same. You are going to leave a totally different, uplifted, transformed person. Answer His call and let Him in today. God bless you throughout this week, and I look forward to worshiping with you right here at Living Water next week. God bless you.